So this video is going to be very visually interesting because I just don't have a lot to show yet, but some of it's philosophical. The last few days I've been working on inventory, and the reason I've been needing to work on inventory for a while. The problem is I've avoided it because I didn't know how to solve the problems I was seeing with it. Basically, I really dislike the way most games do inventory, and there's two reasons for that. One of them is that it's just silly. And when I first started writing the game, and I've maintained this, but one of the goals of the game is to lean towards realism as much as possible. This is balanced by another goal that is a senior goal to realism, and that is fun. So no matter how unrealistic something is, if it's more fun than doing it in a realistic way, then the fun wins out. But that being said, there's always that goal of being more realistic than a typical game, pushing more towards the simulator side than towards the game side. And inventory is a great example of how most games are incredibly unrealistic. You cannot fit a longsword into your backpack. It's not a thing that you can do. Most of these games will let you carry weight, and you're carrying an amount of weight around that is just ludicrous for any human being. And even if you try to assume that you're super powered or something. I mean, in some of these games, they have an explanation. You're somehow super powered or you have a magic backpackers. But most of them, it's just, the fact is they're leaning towards fun. Because for a lot of players, being able to hoard everything that you can and then take it back to the market and sell it and watch that profit turn, that's more fun to them. But there's a more important reason for avoiding some of these things. And that is that it's a multiplayer game that I'm making. And the problem comes down to one player deciding they want to micromanage their inventory, holding up the entire game, and then there's a bunch of other players twiddling their thumbs. And that, I don't care how much fun that one player is having, micromanaging their inventory, the fact that the other players are twiddling their thumbs, there's more ruining of fun than there is creating it. So I struggled with it, and my initial idea was to lean towards the realism. Sorry, you just can't carry that much stuff. And there are a lot of games that do this, where you carry stuff, and then when you exceed a certain limit, you get some kind of penalty, like you move slower or something because you're carrying too much weight. And the problem I see with that is it's like a light switch. It's fine. You add one more toothpick and all of a sudden, you can't carry anymore because your movement's hindered. And there's a couple of problems with that. There's two ways that a typical player, if you look at a single player game, can handle that situation. One is just accept the hit to movement because they feel like they need everything, and of course they're going to go immediately to the merchant to try to judge us. But if it takes them a long time to get there because the movement's hindered, they don't care because they have everything they have in their pack is something they want. Well, that hurts a multiplayer game because now you have one player moving very slowly, and all the other players have to wait for them, and that ruins the fun. The other way is they'll sit there and they'll go through their inventory and they will micromanage the crap out of what can I keep, what can I get rid of, how can I move my inventory around so that I get it below the minimum, the max level, while getting the most value out of it when it's time to go and sell at the merchant. That ruins the fun for the other players too, because now this player's sitting there piddling around with something, and the other players, again, they got nothing to do. Or just out of sheer boredom, they'll start fidgeting with their inventory, and the next thing you know, you're 20 minutes in and nobody's played the game. So I wanted to avoid that, and the original way that I thought of doing it was to lean heavily on the realism. No, you can't fit these things in your backpack at all. You have to make a decision right then. Oh, look, there's a sword. Is that sword better than the sword I have? Do I want to drop my sword and carry that one instead? Because you can't carry both. I think that's too far. So I came up with this system, and I hope it works. Basically, you have three places that items can be stored. One is in your hand, and that's pretty clear. You have two hands, depending on whether the item is a one-handed item or a two-handed item. Depends on how many you can carry, either one or two. And of course, if you want to use that item that's in your hand, there's no penalty to it. So if you've already got the sword in the hand or the pistol in the hand or whatever, you can use it at the maximum rate that that weapon can be used. The next place would be what I'm calling ready locations. And these would be holsters or sheaths or whatever. And you basically put slots on your belt, and you could have your weapon sheath there, you could have a pistol there. And I've simplified these from the standpoint that the game doesn't make you stop and decide to buy a holster and decide where to put it on your belt. It just happens. The holster comes with the pistol. It ends up on your, if you decide you want the pistol in the ready location, then it just happens. But the thing of it is you can exchange. So if you have a sword and you want to switch to a pistol, there's a slight cost to that. It's enough of a cost to make you think before you go in, do I want ranged weapons? Which weapons do I want to have in my hands? But it's not enough of a cost to make you decide, you know what, this just sucks every time I have to switch weapons. It's a pain. It's just a slight cost. And then the third place you have is your backpack. And the backpack incurs a significant cost to move things in and out of it. Enough so, and this is where I have this idea of cost where there's a point at which the cost is enough that you don't do it in combat. And it doesn't, however long, whatever time length that is, I haven't figured out exactly what that is. I've been falling back on 10 seconds, which I think is probably higher than it needs to be. But the point is as long as it's high enough that you're not going to do it in combat, it enforces the right behavior. I don't want people having 50 pistols in their backpack and they just constantly pull out another one so they never have to reload. So it has to be, basically the cost of switching things in and out of your backpack has to be the same as reloading a pistol, essentially. The backpack becomes this place to stash all the stuff you want to keep, but you infrequently use. Or you're just keeping it to take it back to sell to the merchant or whatever. And of course, you still have the problem there of, are you going to let these people store an unlimited amount of stuff, or are they going to hit some hard limit where they just can't fit anymore, and then they're going to micromanage to figure out what they want to keep, or they're going to have some. And the way I'm hoping to avoid that problem is that it is the penalties for weight carried. There's no hard point to it. It is a sliding scale that's constantly calculated. So everything you add to your pack has some impact on your ability, your agility. It negatively impacts your agility, it negatively impacts your speed, and any other stats that would be derived from those. So there's no point at which you just hit a point where you go, I have to spend time doing inventory management. Every time you pick something, every time there's something to pick up, you have that in the back of your head that this is going to slow me down a little. This is going to, hurt my combat effectiveness a little bit, and so forth and so forth. So that hopefully what I'm hoping will happen is it will amortize the amount of micromanagement that people who are inclined to do that will spend on it. So instead of stopping the game cold while somebody spends 10 minutes fidgeting with their inventory, there'll be short little pauses here and there while people, kind of weigh the benefits and the disadvantages of different inventory. Do I loot this? Don't I care? Is it worth, the small amount of money I could sell that club for to take the weight? So that's where I'm going with it. Hopefully, I've got it about half implemented now, and I'm playtesting it to make sure that the core stuff isn't breaking in any way. I'm hoping to have the remainder of it coded up before the end of the week, so there'll be more playtesting, and I'll get some video of that, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm hoping that this design meets the need and solves the problems. But that's all I have for now, so see you in the next video.